Amazing.
Love it. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. And then person review. Alrighty, we're learning the technology here. Thanks for being patient with us. Thank you for joining us. My name is Grace Maxon-Clarke, and I'm here with
April Lopez.
and we're going to talk a little bit today about our Student Emergency Fund and our basic needs case management. I will kind of preface and say that there will be a presentation later on the actual structure of case management on our campus, so we won't go too deep into that in this presentation. But we know that there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of referrals to the Student Emergency Fund. So we wanted to talk to you a little bit about how that process works and what we have available and how we keep it sustained or would like to keep it sustained so we can continue to provide good services for our students. Kimberly was supposed to be with us today. She is actually currently in a meeting that we'll talk about in a few minutes called ITA. So she sends her regards, but we will get started. This session, as I mentioned, we'll talk a little bit about our emergency fund resource and the process in which students can apply for it and also get support for their basic needs. And we're going to cover some data just so you can kind of get a sense of what the amount that we're talking about and what students are looking for overall. And before I go too far, I just want to give a shout out to John for holding this space for us all week. So 2 weeks actually. We are so appreciative. So thank you, John. Thanks. All right, I'm going to have April introduce herself.
Sure. So, as I mentioned already, my name is April Lopez. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am one of two Assistant Dean of Students and Basic Needs Case Managers. I primarily oversee the areas of food and technology.
And then we also have Kim Fuqua, who's again at the ITA meeting. She is also focused on housing, transportation, and childcare, predominantly on housing and the transportation piece, as we'll talk about. And one of her other designations in our division is an international student liaison. And so she has really hit the ground running with supporting our international students, particularly in our current time and climate. They've come up with some unique challenges and needs. Oops.
All right, so then we'll kick off with the Basic Needs Advisory Board. So this actually really emerged from the Shop Advisory Board. I think for many SUNYs, a lot of the basic needs work starts with food pantries. But with the new roles related to housing security and broader food security and ultimately broader basic needs security, we grew our board to now the Basic Needs Advisory Board. And we spent a lot of last year rethinking our mission to really target and embrace broader basic needs. And across campus, we have representation from many different offices and departments, including, just to name a few, auxiliary services, financial aid, admissions, our wonderful host, the Penfield Library, experiential learning, C-STEP, sustainability, and student leadership and engagement. And we really hope to continue growing our membership to include other campus partners who are interested in this work. And I think ultimately it's really great to see our campus investment in basic needs. And then we do attempt to meet monthly, but definitely try to prioritize at least 2 to 3 times a semester. And we are really now, after rethinking our mission, moving towards more projects associated with supporting and growing our basic needs initiatives.
Mhm. So basic needs on our campus encompasses a lot. And April will talk a little bit about the food piece. Since Kim's not here, I'll jump to the emergency housing. So when we talk about housing, we're talking about students who are in need of emergency housing, or maybe they've been unhoused prior to college, or they find themselves unhoused in college and not sure where they need to go, or have stable housing. So they might be staying at a friend's house and they don't really think of themselves as quote unquote homeless, because they have a couch to stay on, but if a student's kind of disclosing to you that they're kind of experiencing some of that instability, we would encourage you to have them come talk to us about their resources. Transportation as well. So students use both public and their own personal transportation. We've seen an increase in students needing help with covering the cost of the upkeep on their cars, particularly as things get more expensive. And we've also seen a need in transportation. For example, some of you may have heard students who are living out at Lakeside Commons used to have a shuttle. That shuttle was taken out of the contract for this year. And so when students showed up, they expected a shuttle and there was no shuttle. So Kim really did a lot of legwork behind the scenes to see what was available to them, although that option is limited. And actually, I think also not happening this semester because it was a strain on that resource. We do try to work with our community partners to figure out what we can do to support our students. And then April can talk about food and technology.
Yeah, so regarding food, I think, again, since this was really the start of a lot of the basic needs work on campus, SHOP uh, has been a really, I think, integral source in starting this work. So I think, like many pantries, it started with non-perishable food items and has really grown to include perishable food items such as eggs, milk, really trying to expand that option for students, especially because, as we all know, eggs are very expensive these days and groceries in general. And we also want to support our students by providing clothing, so professional clothing to support interviews and other professional endeavors. Um, and then we also have winter clothing because also, as we know, we have pretty brutal winters up here. So really trying to make sure that students have as many tangible resources available there. But from SHOP, we've really grown into also, thanks to the support of auxiliary services, we now have emergency meal swipes available for students who might run out or may need meals available on campus for them while they're here. We also last year started SNAP application assistance so that students who may be eligible for SNAP can navigate some of the barriers to accessing public benefits. And I feel like many more other things because we also use emergency funds sometimes to support with groceries. So I think we really have a strong start with food and are constantly growing in that area. Regarding technology, we also partner really closely with Penfield Library. Through our case management model, we help screen for semester-long laptop loans, another program that we really would like to grow and maintain because technology is expensive, and students in a growing technology era need those supports to be able to complete their coursework. So it's a very important resource. And I would say that's kind of where we are on the technology area.
Last on here, you'll read childcare. We don't have too many requests for childcare, but when they do come in, we can connect students with the childcare council, for example, locally, to make sure that they have, resourced and sourced out and referred sources for that need. And we trust kind of the vetting that they do through that agency. Additionally, basic needs on our campus, we will go into deep discussion about our emergency fund in a moment, but we also have sexual and reproductive health items. Shelley just did a presentation this morning on some of those initiatives and how they've grown and expanded. Just as an example, our vending machines across campus. Last year, we gave out over 6,000 items through our vending machine, the one that we had. Now we've expanded to two, and we've given out over 6,000 items, actually more than last year total in just one semester in the fall. So students are busy and they are supported and can be healthy while doing so and safe. We also have hygiene items like April mentioned at the shop, but we also have them available in Culkin if a student needs anything. And our AOD assistant dean, Trisha DeWolf for alcohol and other drugs, also provides testing strips and other materials needed for students, and like the Terra bags to help with like discarding old prescriptions, for example. All of that is available to students as well through our office. So the emergency fund, a quick little brief history. So as many of you remember, during the pandemic in 2020, SUNY Oswego established an emergency fund to help students kind of survive that pandemic and the financial hardships that came with it. And this was a really great initiative, I think, that the college and many universities across the US had established. And we were able to use that fund and really sustain it until now. I mean, we're still using the same budget lines that were created. It's through the foundation, it's not a state line. And so we really truly rely on our donors to continue this emergency fund. But during that time, some of these parameters were put in place. So what is covered in our emergency fund includes food, utility bills, emergency housing, travel, cost of school supplies, childcare, and medical care, just to name a few. But what is not covered is what we really wanted to make sure we shared today is rent. tuition or fees, and long-term expenses. And so sometimes we have students who will reach out and say, hey, I need help with my rent, or I need help paying off my bill because I want to register for next semester. We've seen a lot of that lately with some of the changes in policy. And unfortunately, we can't help with those costs. But what we do help with is setting a student up with a case manager who maybe can help offset some of their personal cost so that they can then put their money towards these other things. We did want to mention, you'll see this on multiple slides, but there is a $500 limit per semester. Our funds are not renewable in the sense that, yes, we have donors supporting us throughout the year, but we are not able to sustain more than 500 per student per academic year. You want to go over this a little bit?
Sure. So the basic needs request form is actually new as of February of last year. Before, I think a lot of ways that students reached out to us was through the Dean of Students email or through phone calls. But now we have this form that students are able to access where they can indicate their basic needs. And they can do it themselves. They can be referred by faculty or staff. And from there, when the student fills out the form, they receive a confirmation, and then Grace is able to vet the reports that come through or the cases that come through, and then they get funneled or referred to a case manager, whether it's Kimberly or myself, depending on what that area of need might be or a variety of needs. Um, and then we meet with the student. Well, first we'll do the follow-up email and have students schedule a meeting with us, whether that's virtual or in person, to try to keep it as accessible as possible. And from there, that first meeting is really to learn more from the student, get a better sense of their situation, and get a holistic picture of what's going on. So they might come in for food, but then we'll share that they have another financial hardship, or because of this financial hardship, they're struggling with a mental health challenge. So we're able to then refer students to either on-campus resources or community resources. And let me continue the flow. Let's see. Right. So depending as well, if let's say a certain on-campus resource or community resource might not immediately meet the need that they need, we'll then potentially utilize student emergency funds to see how we can help support some of those challenges. Um, and then from there, we write up case notes and we make a case to our Associate Dean, Grace, to approve for funds. And then from there, we work with the foundation to be able to cut a check for the student. And this process isn't as fast. We do, like, once we meet with the student, that might happen quickly, and even our request to Grace will happen quickly. But because we work in partnership with the foundation, we have to be mindful of timelines related to processing, inputting a W-9 for the student to make sure that we're following financial records, and then ultimately the check being cut.
And so when we talk about those financial records, so our students generally will fill out a W-9. If they have a particular like international status, they might do W-8 bends. And this will help them make sure that they get any kind of accounting straight on their end. So they will get a tax form at the end of the year for essentially the gift that they're getting from the SEF. And so this is really important. Once it's submitted to the foundation office, it will take about a week and a half for the check to get cut. Over winter break, it's a little bit longer, as you can imagine, with the holidays, but we still try to get it through as much as we can, or as soon as we can. And truly, the foundation is working as fast as they can. You know, as soon as we send over the W-9, you'll see it within 24, 48 hours, but there's still a delay in processing. And we also are waiting on the students sometimes to get the W-9 in because that does have to be secure. It's not something that can be sent electronically. So they would have to come in person to sign that form. So there are a couple of these barriers that we continue to work on to figure out how we can make this process smoother and faster. Prior to this process, it was a PayPal account, but a student would have to have a PayPal account set up separately from their personal, and it was a whole thing. So that wasn't fast either. But so that's currently the process time. Just to give you kind of a quick view of what we saw last year, so this is 24-25. Students would ask for a little bit of everything. School supplies, rent was a big thing. Again, we can't cover rent, so we would often try to help offset other costs. Transportation, phone, cable, internet, food, all those good things. And then what was actually approved, you'll see here. So transportation, utilities, groceries, again, us trying to offset some of those costs to help cover maybe rent or tuition if they're trying to use the funds for that purpose. Talk a little bit about this.
Sure. So this fall, just a quick breakdown of our requests and funds that were utilized. So we received over 190 basic needs requests. So Kimberly, Grace, and I were working real hard, meeting with a lot of students. And from those requests, students were supported with over $13,000 in funds. And thanks to our partnership with Auxiliary Services, we were able to utilize a separate fund for academic supplies. So there we spent over $3,000 supporting students with either software for a course, textbooks for a course, and we also utilized some of those funds to help students pay for their cap and gown, excuse me, for commencement. And then also another new program, the emergency meal swipes, we were able to distribute over 100 to students. Um, at SHOP, we saw a huge growth from the previous academic year and academic semester. And thanks to our new pantry management software, PantrySoft, we're now better able, or at least more accurately able to track student utilization. So last semester, we had over 570 students visit SHOP, 1,703 times. And we distributed over 6,000 pounds of food. And again, I think a lot of that had to do with the challenges going on in our government when the government shut down and SNAP benefits were temporarily removed. We also saw an uptick in pantry utilization as a result. And then as far as our laptop loans go, I do want to say we only have 15 laptops, but we were able to, I can't remember if this 30 plus were the requests. Okay, so we received over 30 requests. 15 laptops were loaned out, but we were able to either, for those requests, connect students to laptop loans through EOP or C-STEP, or they were able to utilize library resources such as the week-long laptop loans or the dailies, or I'm trying to remember. For some students, especially our remote learners, we were able to also give funds for, was it one or two laptops? I can remember.
Two. Yeah.
Yeah, two laptops. So we're able to support that in that way.
I would make note too of this note for the academic supply fund. We are so grateful for that from auxiliary services. However, if it's not listed in the syllabus and it's not something that they have in stock, it's harder for us to use that fund. So then we have to revert back to the emergency fund. So anytime someone can add this information into their syllabus, it really helps us help them. So thank you. Um, Additionally, I'm just looking at time, so I'm going to kind of move through this a little bit quickly, but we also help with year-long housing and dining services. So last summer, so all of that was just within the semester, but last summer we spent over $40,000 helping students just pay their dining service bill for the summer for students that were here for long-term stay, for those that couldn't afford it. And so that's a significant chunk of our funding as well that we are trying to kind of figure out a different avenue or path because that will not be sustainable for us. I talked a little bit about the transportation woes and the international student needs, but we also have expanded our basic needs services to the Syracuse campus. And so we now have our shop there and we have some of the other kind of basic needs that I mentioned earlier about personal hygiene now available at the shop on a regular basis. And students that are online or at the shop campus can meet with us at any time. Actually, I would say we should probably pull that stat. I bet it's 25 to 30% of our students that we interact with are actually not current students on campus. They're off campus, with extended learning, or at the Syracuse campus. Again, we are so grateful for all of our partners in this work, and we continue to look for other collaborations to make this a smoother transition for our students. our funding, as I mentioned, is not, it is sustained in some ways, but something that we are constantly looking to try to build because there is an increased demand and need. So we get a ton of support from auxiliary services. We also have the Fulham Fund, which is kind of a separate fund from the emergency fund, which covers a good chunk of our summer dining bill. We do rely on our alumni donors and our food bank grants. The
Hmm.
food bank is a great partner with us. We recently received a cinnamon donation as a surprise. We're so grateful. And support from UUP. So you can kind of really see that our donations come in from everywhere and everyone. You can also do rolling donations. So I do one from my check every pay period, or every month. I think they have it set up through the alumni account. And just every dollar matters. The recent state of the state budget that was proposed has $0.6 million for emergency funds across all SUNY campuses. But some campuses don't have this. I'm guessing some of it will be used to establish a fund on those campuses. So we are still waiting to see how much we may receive in that if it's approved. I will leave this here that people can read as this gets posted after the fact. We can share out the slides later, but students have lots of reasons why this is supporting them, obviously, in their retention and continued studies here at SUNY Oswego. We had a student whose car was stolen. This all has to do with transportation, but it's just one example of one of these areas that we cover, and how it can really help them focus on school if we can help them through some of these issues. And lastly, our future hopes. So obviously, we want to continue the improvements to our campus policies. That's really half of our work isn't just so much meeting with the students, but it's making sure that things that are happening across campus are in support of students' basic needs and not putting a burden on a student for meeting their basic need. And continued advocacy for funding always.
Hmm.
We have met with the Alumni and Development Office that partnered with us. We meet with alumni 2 to 3 times a month sometimes during the busy season, just sharing our stories and what we do. And they have been a really great contributor to helping us let people know what it is that we need here. We work with folks on campus and within the community. OCO, Oswego County Opportunities, is a great partner that has really helped provide resources and support. We are always looking at grant opportunities and always looking to have more staff. So, as we all are. So here's our contact information. We know this is kind of a quick brief. You may have questions. Please email us or email us directly, Grace Maxon or April Lopez, and we can get back to you with some information. So thank you for listening. We appreciate you all being here.
Anyone have any questions?
I don't know where it is. Oh, there you
Do you ever collaborate with other services off campus, like other food pantries or Goodwill or anything like that? And if
So
so, what procedures do you go through to make those collaborations happen?
So I'll kick off the response for that. I think we're in a really good position as a partner agency of the food bank. Pretty recently, the Shinneman Foundation and the Food Bank of Central New York worked together to bring a bunch of pantries from Oswego County together, and we did a whole brainstorm session, and we not only shared ideas but also shared resources with each other. And from that brainstorm session, we actually plan to have either a coalition or some kind of pantry collaboration within the county. So that's something that we have started. I have worked pretty closely with the Salvation Army of Oswego, just to also share resources. One time I had excess milk and that it was about to expire, and they were able to get it out for their meal that day. So that's a lot of kind of the swapping and collaboration we do there. But I think really to facilitate more of those partnerships, I think we're just knocking on people's doors, sending emails, and we're, I think, also constantly asking existing partners if they know anyone, please send them our way. I'm just happy to continue the work together.
And we do promote like the food sense program and the
Mhm.
distribution lists. There are some unique like rules around who you can partner with, like Panera Bread, for example. Everyone's like, oh, get the bread. But they have, the food bank is partnering with them in other ways, and we can't pull from that resource too frequently. So there are some things that we have to follow. But yeah, we are open doors looking to help. So The student struggling financially but concerned about not being deserving enough, having sufficient need, diverting resources from other students. What can I say? Is there anything I can do to reassure them? That's a really great question. We all know they are deserving enough. And I would encourage them even just to come in and talk with us about what resources are available. We don't push anything on a student. We just let them know what is there. And if they want to use it, great. If they don't want to use it, that's okay too. They know where to come and find it. Students have that ability to choose what they want to use. And if there's a student that you're worried about, reach out to the Dean of Students office. We can kind of do like a, hey, wanted to reach out. Is there anything that you need, or kind of, send information in a different way or connect with them in a different way without saying it was from you. So we're willing to do that at any time. Anytime. Any other questions?
Can students who are enrolled in the Oswego campus make use of Syracuse campus resources?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I think we really try to normalize for all of our students who are enrolled here, whether they're online, in person, at main campus or Syracuse campus, to be able to utilize really any of the campus resources, whichever is the closest to them. I had a commuter student one time ask me, can I use Shop? But I'm like, oh, Shop is for everyone, including staff and faculty. So if they ever need a coordinated effort from either campus, we can also prepare bags in advance. I probably need a better boundary, but I'd also probably be willing to deliver if necessary, if accessible. So,
And students closer to Syracuse can use the Syracuse campus for any of those resources always.
Yeah.
Thank you all. If you have any follow-ups, let us know. Thanks, John.
If you could click the stop recording button, it should be on some,
Yes.
the top, yeah.
Yeah.